One of the most successful movie producers of the last 40 years is someone who's been involved in bringing some of the most beloved films of all time to the screen. She has worked alongside the top directors in the business and has been heavily involved in a variety of genres. I'm referring to Kathleen Kennedy, a producer whose impact across Hollywood is quite impressive. Her first job in the film industry was as the assistant to director-producer John Milius, the co-writer of Apocalypse Now, among several other notable credits. Milius was the executive producer on Steven Spielberg's comedy 1941, and Spielberg was so impressed with Kennedy's organizing skills and understanding of storytelling, he hired her as his own associate on his next movie, Raiders of the Lost Ark. She was very quickly promoted to associate producer on Poltergeist, and Spielberg eventually asked her to help produce a family film he was directing about an alien visitor. That movie was, of course, E.T. the Extra-Terrestrial, and her contributions to that movie were pivotal in forming a professional relationship with Spielberg. For example, you actually have Kathleen Kennedy to partly thank for the iconic look of Elliot's alien friend. While Spielberg and the designers and effects team were trying to figure out the right appearance for E.T., Kennedy latched onto the importance of his eyes in making the audience sympathize with him. So she hired people working at the Jules Stein Eye Institute to aid in creating his big-eyed look. Spielberg has also said that Kennedy played a major role in humbling him. He has been open about the ego he gained following the humongous success of Jaws and Close Encounters of the Third Kind, which made him feel invincible and also affected how he treated his crew. Kennedy then sent him aside during the filming of E.T. and told him he needed to completely change his behavior. Since then, he made an effort to put ego aside and always treat the crew members with the needed respect. There are multiple stories of that kind of behavior being brushed aside in Hollywood, so the fact that Kennedy had little patience for it and was even willing to chew out a powerful director like Steven Spielberg says so much about her. In 1981, Spielberg, Kathleen Kennedy, and Frank Marshall founded Amblin Entertainment, which has multiple hit films to its credit. You will find her name listed as a producer or executive producer on such movies as Gremlins, The Goonies, An American Tail, Empire of the Sun, Who Framed Roger Rabbit, The Color Purple, Batteries Not Included, and the Back to the Future trilogy. Kennedy was also heavily involved in the Indiana Jones sequels and the anthology television series Amazing Stories. She was instrumental in one of Steven Spielberg's most celebrated filmmaking years, when she served as one of the principal producers on Jurassic Park and an executive producer on Schindler's List. A lot of people credit the director and writers for the success of certain movies, but the producer is also important, and Kennedy was involved in many day-to-day creative decisions on these films, with the likes of Spielberg, Robert Zemeckis, and Joe Dante recognizing her guidance when putting them together. Eventually, Kathleen Kennedy decided to form a new production company along with Frank Marshall, fittingly titled the Kennedy Marshall Company, and this too produced a series of hits. One of the biggest was the ghost story The Sixth Sense, directed and written by a promising young up-and-comer. Before directing that movie, M. Night Shyamalan was primarily hired to punch up scripts, and his only directing credits were a couple of little-seen independent films. However, Kennedy saw promise in The Sixth Sense and decided to produce it, and that film became one of the surprise blockbusters of 1999. Through this company, she was also a producer or executive producer on Signs, Seabiscuit, and The Curious Case of Benjamin Button. Retaining a busy schedule, Kennedy remained committed as a producer for Spielberg, including on War of the Worlds and Munich. She also played a key role in bringing renowned international animated films to a wider English-speaking audience. Kennedy served as an associate producer on the adaptation of the celebrated graphic novel Persepolis. She was also an executive producer on the English-language dubs of some of the recent Studio Ghibli movies, namely Ponyo, The Secret World of Arrietty, From Up on Poppy Hill, The Wind Rises, and The Tale of the Princess Kaguya. Kennedy also produced the acclaimed motion capture adaptation of Hergé's The Adventures of Tintin alongside Steven Spielberg and Peter Jackson, and she would continue her association with Amblin on Warhorse and Lincoln. Kennedy was even the one to suggest to Spielberg that he direct a film adaptation of Roald Dahl's The BFG, a longtime passion project of hers she'd attempted to get off the ground since the early 90s. Her work on the Indiana Jones movies kept her in close contact with George Lucas, and when the mind behind Star Wars decided he wanted to retire from running his company Lucasfilm, he selected Kennedy to become the new president. She accepted the job, then shortly afterwards Lucas sold it to Disney, and thus she became part of the Mouse House's empire and tasked with starting a new series of Star Wars movies. The first of these was The Force Awakens, which was a monumental success, both critically and especially at the box office. Directed by J.J. Abrams, this film proved that Lucas made the right choice in who would handle the responsibility of taking care of his galaxy far, far away. Under Kathleen Kennedy's leadership, the Star Wars universe has managed to expand, including with Rogue One, an exciting movie focused on the rebels responsible for stealing the Death Star plans and set directly before A New Hope. She shepherded the first live-action Star Wars television series with The Mandalorian, one of the flagship shows and crown jewels of Disney+. The first few episodes of the Book of Boba Fett have impressed me so far with the way it's managed to flesh out the fan-favorite bounty hunter. I'm also very excited to see the upcoming series about Obi-Wan Kenobi, which has Ewan McGregor reprising his role as the Jedi Master after his apprentice has turned to the dark side. Of course, it's not only Star Wars projects he's been preparing at Lucasfilm. I'm really excited for the upcoming release of the 5th Indiana Jones movies. This is a character with a very special place in my heart, and even though James Mangold is in the director's chair rather than Steven Spielberg, he's still an excellent choice to bring us a new adventure featuring the famous archaeologist. Reading interviews for collaborators, they've mentioned that Kathleen Kennedy often thinks about characters first, and the importance of making characters that the audience is interested in following, ones who are compelling and flawed and successfully grow through the course of the story. And you definitely sense that through many of the movies she has produced over the years. That spark and eye for detail that Steven Spielberg noticed in their first meeting together on 1941 clearly has not gone away. And when I look at the amazing list of credits she has accumulated, it's proof she is one of the best producers working in Hollywood today. Thank you for all the entertainment you have played a role in bringing to our screens, Kathleen Kennedy, and I look forward to everything you make in the future.